So you're running out of closet space. The good news? You don't need to stop shopping. You just need to start selling with The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. Whether it's that mini bag that can't even fit your phone, or those boots you never fully broke in, The RealReal handles everything from photography and copywriting to shipping and pricing. So you can just sit back, get paid, and make room for things that actually feel like you. And with 10,000 plus new arrivals every single day from top designers like Prada, Celine, Louis Vuitton, and Loewe, all for up to 90% off retail, you're bound to find something perfectly on brand to fill that extra closet space with. Plus, right now, you can get an extra $100 to shop when you sell for the first time. Make room for what feels like you. Go to therealreal.com to start selling and get your extra $100 to keep shopping at therealreal.com. That's therealreal.com. Terms apply.
I'm Kamika Dillard, certified ACC professional coach and CEO of S.A.V.E Coaching. At S.A.V.E Coaching, professional growth isn't one size fits all. That's why we've created 3 ways to support you. DOT for building clarity and direction, RISE for resilience and intentional action, and VISION for long-term strategy and leadership. Each program is designed to help you move through setbacks with confidence and clarity and create momentum that lasts. No pressure, no hustle, just real progress. Ready to explore what's possible? Book a free discovery call at fear.The. Welcome to the Black Women Will Save Black Women podcast, the podcast where we support, amplify, validate, and elevate Black women always. I'm your host, Kamika Dillard, and this is our sanctuary. So let's get into this week's episode. For this week's failure file, let's talk about boundaries. I try to really have strong boundaries in all aspects of my life. So personal, professional, with family, with friends. And this week, my boundaries were tested. Fridays for me is sacred. Like, we don't work on Fridays. I've never liked working on Fridays. I think we all should go to four days a week of working. And Friday nights particularly are very sacred for me. I do not like to go out on Fridays. Like, that's just me. I'm normally exhausted from the week, and I keep my Friday nights to watch Dateline. Shout out to my friends, because they know I'm going to be in the bed watching Dateline and won't even see the end of the episode. So instead of doing my normal Friday, like, routine, going, relaxing, refreshing, resetting, etc., people started asking me for things. My mama started asking me for stuff like, go run this errand. I don't run errands on Fridays, okay? Fridays, I don't want to do anything. I had another friend who wanted me to come out on Friday night to go to an event. And, I just felt really torn. And then I started committing to these things, knowing that it will break my own boundary. So, by the end of Friday and even the end of the entire weekend, I was just exhausted. I had violated what I knew was a supreme boundary that I have, because I don't want to be drained. And then I became resentful because I did all these things for them, knowing it was violating my own boundaries. I didn't honor myself. Once I thought about it and really thought about what boundaries look like, some people interpret that as laying down rules for other people. It's actually really laying down rules for yourself. Boundaries only work if I enforce them. Friends can ask, life can demand, but it is my responsibility to protect my time. Otherwise, I teach people that my boundaries are negotiable. And boundaries aren't really about saying no to people. It's about saying yes to yourself. If you don't guard your sacred time, no one else will. And so I just want to make sure that we have a framework for what boundaries are. So boundaries are about protecting your energy. They're not about controlling others. They're about clarifying your limits. Rules are external. They're imposed by systems or leaders. They're enforceable, but they don't necessarily honor your personal needs. And then you have expectations. Expectations are invisible scripts that we carry. They can inspire, but if unspoken, they can often lead to frustration. So, all in all, boundaries protect you, rules regulate others, and expectations shape relationships. So remember to really honor your boundaries. Say yes to yourself. It will just pay off in the long run. And that is this week's Fail Forward File. All right, we have a really special guest today. Very excited to have Jodi Kaye Wade. Jodi Kaye Wade is based in Washington, D.C. She is a financial coach, wealth builder, and licensed mortgage loan officer. As founder and CEO of Reliance Financial Solutions and a loan officer with Universal Mortgage and Finance, she helps clients repair credit, become mortgage ready, and build generational wealth. A wife, mom of two, and real estate investor, she blends global development experience with practical strategies to empower financial freedom. Let's welcome to the sanctuary, Jodi Kaye Wade.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
We are so happy to have you. How have you been?
Hey, it's been an interesting year, but I have really taken a moment to reflect and pivot and, really go back to my core. So I'm so excited to be able to be here today and share my experience and my story.
So, you unfortunately were one of, I think we're up to 600,000 Black women who lost their jobs in 2025. Tell us your story. Tell us what happened with you.
Yeah, so I spent my career since graduating from Florida A&M University,
FAMU in the house.
HBCU.
Go Rattlers.
Yes, Rattler. I'm a proud Rattler. So since I graduated from FAM, I worked for the federal government. And I worked for an agency called the U.S. Agency for International Development. USAID was my career for about 13 years. I got a chance to not only do good work, but travel the world. And when a decision was made to shut USAID down, I was overseas. I was in West Africa, the country called Liberia. So when this happened, I was also pregnant with my second child, and I was really confused about like, what does this mean in reality? A federal agency that's formalized by law. Like now they're trying to shut us down in weeks. So I was really confused about that. But during that period, I just said I need to get home, deliver my child safely, and then figure out what's next.
So, I think the stress of everything happening with the change in administration, the change in government, and being pregnant, like that is just super unusual. And you're overseas. So, how many months pregnant were you? And then, like, what was the plan to get back home to the States?
So I was already supposed to return to the United States. They call it medical evacuation, so medevac. I was always supposed to medevac in like March around then. But because of what happened in January, I ended up leaving in February. And it was even difficult to leave in February because there was so much fear around spending government resources. When Doge was formalized and was making decisions about government spending, even prior commitments were now being questioned. And staff movement was a part of that. As it was played out in the news, USAID programs were halted, and even till today, many of the programs that were being implemented till January, they didn't even get paid up until January. So that time was very confusing, and but through consistent pushing, like, listen, I'm pregnant, I'm overseas. I committed to working for the U.S. government, and I don't want the government to now abandon me. Allow me to please return home. So I was finally able to do that. But my husband was still overseas, and he was supposed to have a ticket as well to come back. Thankfully, my 3-year-old was with grandma for the holidays, and we said, "Well, come, just leave her there, and she'll be already settled during my maternity leave." And you know, that I was so thankful for because that was a blessing. I would have had to, within less than a month or two, return right back over, and it's 4 flights. Traveling back and forth to the US. So when that all happened, I was finally able to leave, and I was basically 7 months pregnant at that point. I delivered my son in April. Smoothly, thank God.
Thank
But
God.
during that time when they were making decisions about who would be terminated when, once they realized they couldn't just terminate us and fire all of us and leave us overseas, basically, there had to be a process to evacuate us back to the US. I was able to get an extension from the July termination group to September. So my official end date with the federal government was September 2nd. And it was because of my son. And I'm thankful for that because postpartum, I did have complications and wouldn't have had insurance.
It infuriates me, one, just the treatment and the stress that sometimes Black women already have to go through dealing with our mortality rate when it comes to, like giving birth, et cetera, and to have this added stress that in my opinion was just completely unnecessary. I'm just glad you made it over here safely and was able to deliver your son in April. Shout out to Aries babies. Uh, so you knew that you were going to be your role was going to be eliminated. You were continuing to get paid. Were you working at the time, or were you just sitting at home postpartum after you finished like your maternal leave?
So, when a decision was made that USA would be shut down, we were all told to go home and stay home on administrative leave. So home was our government housing overseas. So we were just waiting around. They told us not to use government equipment, but because we're overseas, we still had to check our phones for notices. There were a lot of legal cases happening at the same time, disputing the decisions made by the administration. So we were hoping one of those cases would say this cannot be done. Right? We were all holding our breaths, wondering, okay, when will they reverse all of these things? Because when you're overseas as a foreign service officer, you're representing the U.S. government. I mean, the host country is asking you questions about what's going on, the private sector, grantees, contractors. So we're all watching everything at the same time, looking at the news because we don't know how to answer these questions. So that was a very difficult time, but we were just waiting. And then a decision later came that we would halt programs and do a review of the U.S. government funded activities. So we were saying, okay, it's not a complete shutdown; it's a review. It's just a temporary thing. And then later we realized that was not the case. So on administrative leave, I was just sitting at home. And due to my fear that we were going to get shut down because we're still like in this waiting stage, I started applying for jobs. Because
So
I was pregnant and I was like, I need to have health insurance no matter what happens, private sector or government.
so
So I did remote interviews from Monrovia. And they said we could do that. They said, if you get a job, go ahead and take it. But eventually you'll have a RIF date and then you'll just get paid while you're on your termination. So I continued interviewing and applying for jobs, and the other agencies were getting people getting let go, and then it was just this flood of people in the market. So competition increased significantly, and I was never able to secure employment.
were you still trying to stay internal to government, or were you applying externally?
I was applying only externally. So I was trying to get into nonprofits, um, get positions with universities, and I even considered a few companies in the private sector that were in the DMV. And I was able to get a few interviews. I would say I was applying like 5 jobs a day, and then I was able to get max those 6, 7 months I was actively applying, about 13 interviews. And a lot of the experiences I had, I felt they were transferable, but a lot of the people who eventually I interviewed with said that they wanted people who already had nonprofit experience or who worked at a consulting firm before, which I didn't. And then another feedback I got was I didn't have sales. So when
Interesting.
people say, partnerships and negotiations and all these things, which I think are transferable because I was a private enterprise officer, I worked with the private sector. I had to form partnerships and negotiate agreements. So I said, okay, these are transferable. But they wanted specific type of work experience. And I never was able to overcome those hurdles because I didn't have it. And one of the positions I even interviewed for was another government agency, but it was their contractor, so DOD. And then they were saying, DOD work is very different from development. And quite frankly, right now, the whole industry is gone. I mean, everyone is pivoting from USAID or USAID contractor or USAID grantee. They're going into a completely different space because their work was always around overseas, health, agriculture, access to power, all these things that we don't necessarily do domestically as much. Um, but yeah, we have to be resilient. And for me, I was like, however, I can transition to something that's so similar or adjacent to what I did, I'm okay with that. And eventually I couldn't find something, so I started something of my own.
I love that you kind of took that and decided, okay, I can't get and transfer my skills, which I also think is just that is a symptom of some larger issue that's happening, especially with Black women, because we know our skills transfer, but we're not giving that same benefit of the doubt when it comes to being able to transfer our skills to these other agencies or other sectors, et cetera, et cetera. You see men like automatically get some benefit of the doubt. That's why they feel so comfortable applying to jobs and only having 50% of the qualifications. And women, Black women especially, we feel this need for perfection. I have to check every box on the application before I even consider applying. But I love that you were able to see, okay, this isn't working. I am now going to pivot and do my own thing. So tell us about that pivot and how did Reliance come about?
Thank you. So, Reliance Financial Solution really was a decision after, as I said, 6 months of applying for jobs. And I had delivered my son in April. So, 2 months later, I continued to interview and continued to apply for jobs postpartum. Even though I had complications, I had to go back to the hospital. I still was like concerned about income and concerned about health insurance. But after I decided, it was like a decision I made. I said, enough is enough. I'm no longer going to be in a state of panic and waiting. I want to take control of my life. I want to take control of my career and ultimately where I end up. So I said, what are other skills, talents, passions I have? I literally wrote down in my phone, okay, I've always wanted to open up a store where I can sell ice cream. I've always wanted to do something related to travel. I decided to just write down everything I ever thought about. And then I thought about what am I currently doing that I can do more of. So I always used to coach people around finances, my friends and family, and kind of help them pay down debt faster and give them strategies. And then I had rental properties on the side that I viewed as something I could leverage when I retire. Something that I can sell or take equity out or whatever 30 years from now. And then to my surprise, that rental properties has been quite helpful sustaining us right now, us meaning my husband and my household right now as supplemental income. But I said, okay, can I do more in real estate? So then I started to do some research and my background with finance and my MBA. I said, let me look into the aspect of getting capital to buy homes because every time I bought my properties, going through that approval process was not easy. I was always approved, but the documentation, all the terminology, it was foreign to me. So I said, let me help others go through that more smoothly and being more informed. So that's where I came up with getting my license. And then also, as I talk to people around their finances, businesses, there's always a desire from those who I supported. They want to buy their first home. So I said, why not make money from it as well if I'm going to be guiding and coaching people on getting ready for that through coaching?
Okay, so Reliance Financial Solutions was born,
Mhm.
and how has that shift been to, I'm assuming, or let me ask this question first. Are we still applying, or are we just working our business now full time?
I've been full time with my business since August.
I love it.
So after I did a lot of the administrative stuff in June, to August. So I was registering the company, setting up the bank account, paying for merchant services, all that administrative stuff. Right. I did that from June to July. And then I worked on my license to be a loan officer in July, passed the exam the first time in August. And then I've been working full time on both things since August.
And both things being the Reliance Financial Solutions and the mortgage and finance, correct?
Yes. So Reliance, I do credit repair and financial coaching. So I can support people even if they don't need a loan, right? But then if through my support to my client and they need support in buying a home or they have a desire for passive income and they want to also buy a rental property, I'm licensed to do that. And that's where me being a loan officer comes in. So I am dual hatted, depending on what my client needs are.
I love it. So, how has business been for you?
Great. I have done a lot of legwork in reference to marketing the last few months, which is a new area of skill set that I've had to learn as I go. I've also been getting a lot of referrals from agents in reference to those who are looking for the opportunity to buy their first home. So some of them are not mortgage ready. So through my company, I'm able to help them with fixing their credit and guiding them on what they need to do to get their DTI down, supporting them and understanding how much money they need to put as a reserve when they do own a home. So that type of guidance has been helpful from referrals as well from agents. And then as a loan officer, since I've been actively in the business in August, September. So basically, once I officially ended with USAID, that's when I picked up and started being a loan officer. So around September. September to now, I have had 3 loans under contract. I have 2 that are pre-approved that are looking to find a house, and then others who are not really there, but I'm going to keep working with them so the next 3 to 6 months they could be there and they could buy a house.
And she said DTI, that is debt to income
Income.
ratio. Just in case people weren't familiar with that. Okay, so you approach this, which I think is a very unique way of approaching it, from the perspective that, okay, this is an area where I can have multifaceted income, ways to generate income. So not just doing the financial coaching side, but also doing the mortgage side, being a loan officer. Why did you make that decision to kind of approach it from a multifaceted, like, a way to kind of look at like this holistically, so you're not just leaning on one portion for your business and for your revenue and income?
So the experience of being let go from the federal government, I realized that if I'm going to get back to consistent income, I need to be able to have multiple things going on. So as I talk to the clients and their needs to fix their credit and to put together a good financial plan, um, and their needs came up of, oh, I want to buy a house and I'm going to look into that process. I said, well, maybe I can help you do that too. I've even considered getting my license to manage people's retirement funds. So whatever way I can generate passive income and have different income sources, that's why I got the license to be an MLO as well. But I'm also considering getting my real estate agent license so that I can also make money from that too. So I am no longer going to rely on one income source ever again. So that is why I got my license to be a loan officer.
Jodi Kaye, you just mentioned two additional ways that you're thinking through this. Sis, are
Mhm.
we tired yet?
No.
We're a mom of
No.
2 under 5, just FYI, and we have essentially 2 separate businesses, even though they're all within the same realm, and we're thinking about picking up 2 additional aspects within that business. How are you outsourcing, or are we outsourcing anything right now to alleviate some of, "Okay, I'm doing a lot. I don't wanna do a lot." It's okay to have multiple streams of income, but how are you taking care of yourself during this process?
So that's a very good question. I've not really thought about it because I'm still trying to just get to my income being the same as it was before. Um, and for me, that's important. Like, I don't want to survive off of, the rentals and savings. I want to get back to earning what I was before. So that's why I'm like, if my client needs that, I'm gonna figure out how to help them and I'm gonna make money while doing it. But at the same time, it is a lot of work. And I have to thank my husband who is been we've been in this together during this whole crazy experience. He is a foreign trained veterinarian. And now he's working on trying to be licensed here in the US. So we're both in a period of transition. And For us, like, we want to get back to a lifestyle where we can take vacations 2 3 times a year, or be able to visit family easily. Right now we have to be a little more conservative with how we spend, but I don't want to live like that forever. So in my mind, I have a 2-year plan to get back to the income that I had before, and that's me giving my businesses 110%. Like today, I went and met with an agent trying to build a relationship to again generate more leads to ultimately help more people get into their dream home and me financing them. So I am working 7 days a week, and trying to get to that point where, again, my income is what it was before, if not more. Hmm.
So you mentioned your husband, and I think we don't talk enough about how it sounds like you're the primary breadwinner in your household right now, and it's due
I
to you
was. I
was. Oh,
was.
okay.
Not anymore.
Not it.
No.
Okay. So
Yes.
how are
Mhm.
you doing that shift from one becoming the primary breadwinner to now having to lean on your husband more?
Yeah. Very, very interesting question, and that's something I'm processing every day. So as a foreign service officer, I met my husband overseas, and they call it a trailing spouse. So he had his whole career, his businesses, and he still has his business. But he followed me to my next assignment. And when we had some time in DC before, we were just moving around for the past 3+ years since we've been married. Um, and now it's like, I am now in this kind of stay-at-home mom, but I'm working on my businesses situation. I don't know how to describe it. But he got a job as an assistant vet. So he's the one not going out to work and being in the office environment and being around other people. And he comes home with the stories. It's like, okay. It's different. And it's an adjustment for me because I've definitely been working since I was 16. And now it's an odd environment to be in, but I thank him for all that he's been doing because now, you know, his income also helps. It's not as much as it was before, but we're okay. And then like I'm home with our son who's 7 months. He was home with our daughter before,
Mm.
and I didn't have that experience being home with her. After like 5 months, I went back to work, and I would only have the evenings and weekends. So I'm now being able to bond with our son that I guess I kind of didn't have with our daughter.
I love that for you. I know that what will resonate with so many Black women is that little bit of not even a little bit, what I'm gathering from the many Black women I've interviewed at this point who have spouses and now they're having to become more reliant on their spouses financially. There's a level of uncomfortability around that, and they have to get comfortable being financially uncomfortable. And you smile a little bit when I said that, Jodi Kaye. Why is that?
Yeah, because I have been an independent person for a long time. Even though we're married, I have always contributed quite a bit. And he did too, but I feel like he didn't care too much that was bringing more, but it bothers me that now I'm not doing it. So it's a bit strange, but I'm adjusting to this new normal.
I love that you're making the adjustment. So we brought up finances. Did you get a severance from the government? How did that work?
So, as I stated, I was officially terminated in September. And I got my first severance in October. And it's been like every 2 weeks they've been paying it out, which has been helpful. That has boosted the savings as well. And now we're just trying to figure out how to use that money to not only live, but then maybe leverage it in, business that I'm doing. Because there have been startup costs, and I'm not generating enough to cover those, but it's the building stage. So we're just using it in that way.
How many weeks severance did you get? And then how many weeks of savings did you already have?
Interesting. I don't know if it's severance per week.
Or months or, whatever.
So that's a good question. I would say, and I don't mind disclosing, it's like 30,000 I got, but I think in the federal government is you get a month of pay for every year you worked or something. I'm not quite sure, but it was around 30,000 that I got. And for savings, I had the 6 months savings for emergency fund. And then early this year, because like I said, I'm an investor, so I would save and then buy rental properties. We sold three of the rental properties in Ohio. That was even before all of this happened. We were already planning to exit that market and then buy another in the DMV. But instead of buying, we just kept it to be able to have extra cushion to survive this period. Because we're now in an expensive market. Rent is 3 grand plus a month and other stuff. So we needed that. Yeah.
So, what is your 2-year plan that you brought up? You say you had a 2-year plan to try to get everything back. I would love for you to share with our audience. What's the 2-year plan?
So I certainly want to get to six-figure income again. I want to be able to have passive income that could be more than half of my income that I'll generate. What I mean by that is, with the rentals, I've been able to have about a third that cover a third of our how can I say this? A third of the rental income covering our expenses, right?
Right.
But it would be nice if it was 100%. So I don't have to be feeling like I got to always hustle for my business. It would be nice to take a step back and get the weekends off and things like that. But if an opportunity comes up where I have to meet someone, I make myself available because there's never know if that'll lead to another transaction, right? And then in the next 2 years, I want to make sure that I'm a lot more present, right, for my children. Because right now I work so much. My husband has to, take care of our kids more. But I think once he's licensed and making, more money, once the business is really starting to generate money, and I have a consistent client base, then I'll be able to really focus more on stability in our house, right? Because even though I have the rentals, those properties, they're rented. So we're renting right now because I didn't have sufficient how can I say, I didn't have a pay stub to be showing someone that I have, income or enough to buy another property right now because you need to show you have consistent income. So in 2 years, once I have that consistent income, I want to buy our home again for us. So that's something I want to do because I don't like the idea as an investor to keep paying someone else's mortgage. But we had to have something as we transitioned and basically lost jobs. Yeah.
So, I love that your 2-year plan also includes non-financial goals. So, being able to spend more time with your children and, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's wonderful. So, what is your ask from this community? So, how would you like for us to save you, support, amplify, validate, elevate? How do you want this community to show up for you?
I would say for me, it would be really great to have support from those in this community to support my businesses. As I stated, I started this business due to a pivot, but quite frankly, I was already working with people in my network that have goals to improve their finances, pay down debt, and ultimately buy an asset, right? A home. And I was in real estate already as an investor, but now I'm like really coaching, guiding people through what it means to manage a home. Because once you buy the house, you got to manage it and being able to prepare for all the ups and downs of being a homeowner. So I would love if anyone's been thinking about buying and really wants guidance on what it looks like to be a homeowner and or venture out and buy their first property. I'm happy to explain to them how it was for me and what's the best way to leverage that asset if you already have one, how you can pull money from it and do different things. So I would love for anyone that needs support to kind of think through their finances, create passive income, want to fix their credit, because I can help you with that, to definitely reach out to me. And, follow me on social media. My name is Jodi Kaye Wade, but I also have my company pages, which are on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So that's Reliance Financial Solutions. So follow me, listen, to the information I post and comment. Let me know what your thoughts are.
Are you only serving the DMV area, or are you able to serve people all over?
So I am definitely able to serve people all over, mainly the East Coast. So I'm licensed across DMV and Florida, but within the organization I work for, we have the ability to do loans in North Carolina and Texas and Georgia. So if you're looking to buy mostly the East Coast and Texas, I can still help you.
Okay, awesome. Well, Jodi Kay, thank you for coming on the sanctuary and sharing your story with us. I'm sure that people hadn't even thought about like the impact of being pregnant, being overseas, starting a business, having a trailing spouse. You just dropped so many different nuggets that I think people are really going to appreciate. So I'm so happy for you. I'm looking forward to the next step of your journey.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, y'all, let's talk about this week's save strategy. All right, this week's save strategy is going to focus on the V in save, but instead of validate, I am going to talk about vitality. So, vitality is all about protecting your energy and well being, making sure that you can show up as a holistic person. What I really want us to focus on in terms of vitality, rest and rejuvenation is our birthright. We don't have to work ourselves to death or, violate our boundaries in order to feel like, all right, we deserve set rest and rejuvenation. I really want us to think about vitality as primary versus secondary. So, really take care of yourself, sis, as we are trying to navigate this very complicated world. Vitality is essential to your overall health and well being. So, and that's this week's Save strategy. All right, y'all, another excellent episode of Black Women Will Save Black Women. As always, please like, subscribe, tell a friend who will tell a friend, share this episode with other people. As usual, support, amplify, validate, and elevate. That is how we save each other. And never forget that Black women will save Black women. I'm your host, Kamika Dillard. Have a great week.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's Libsyn, ads.com today,